Alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. We're continuing with the topic of guarding against the tongue. Guarding against the tongue, because this is one of the number two reasons why many of us will end up in the hellfire, because we could not control what comes out of our mouths. And we spoke yesterday about the difference between backbiting, slander, and gossip. They're not the same. Backbiting is when you say something about a person in their absence that is the truth, and they would not like for you to say it. Whereas slander is to say something about a person in their absence that they would not like, and it's a lie. And then gossip is worse than both of them, because gossip is to intentionally, deliberately say something bad about a person to another person or another group in the hopes of turning them against each other, or turning that group against him or her. So it's more malicious and more evil. Okay, so again, and so many of us, we do good deeds. You give in charity, you're helping your family, you're helping your friends, your relatives, but you're losing all your rewards because of the tongue, because of the things that you're saying. If you say, for example, oh, my brother is lazy, oh, my sister is lazy, and you know your sister doesn't want you to say it about her, or your brother don't want you to say about him, you've backbit him. You done lost your good deeds for that day. Okay, or you go to you look on Facebook and you don't like the fact that a lot of people like this person who you think is not a good person, so you say, oh, he ain't a good person. Well, guess what? You've gossiped and slandered or backbit that person. So again, we have to be careful, with what comes out of our mouths. But as we also mentioned briefly yesterday, there's exceptions to everything. We learned that when we did the series on the lawful and the unlawful. There's always exceptions to everything. Okay? And there are exceptions that will make what you say not be backbiting. And this is what I want to speak about today. And it's important that we learn what the exceptions are. Okay? Um, and again, I want you guys to remember, when we talk about backbiting, it's not just through the tongue, but if you go on Facebook and write something, that's backbiting too. That falls in the category. Or even pointing or making gestures about a person. All of that is backbiting. Okay? And also to talk about somebody but don't mention his name. This was a question that someone brought up yesterday. What if I speak about somebody but I don't mention his name? If everybody knows who you're talking about, you're still backbiting him. But if you're speaking in general and nobody knows who you are directly addressing, then it's not backbiting. And this is what we're going to speak about today, okay? One of the exceptions to backbiting. Say, for example, you say something about a person in their absence, but your intention is to clarify that person's mistake so that other people won't copy it. Then this is not backbiting. Instead, this is giving advice. For example, say you say, well, I'm going to use the Sufis for an example. The Sufis, they like to base their evidence on hadiths that are not authentic. Okay, that's not backbiting. I'm trying to clarify this so you won't make the mistake, because the Sufis use a lot of hadiths. For example, I just dealt with a situation on Facebook today. Somebody posted on Facebook their Facebook page about female circumcision. They said female circumcision is obligatory. No, it is not. And then they said there's more hadiths on female circumcision than there is anything. And no, this is not correct. So I had to go on there and clarify that that is wrong. First of all, most of those hadiths, in fact, all of them that they mentioned are fabricated. Okay? Nowhere did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam make it an obligation for females to be circumcised. In fact, he said, you know, only take a little bit. It'd be better for you. Okay? So again, this is not backbiting Sufis. This is because this group was a Sufi group and they use a lot of fabricated hadiths. I'm trying to clarify something so that you don't fall into that mistake. So that would be an exception to backbiting. Okay? So if I mention the Sufis by name, okay, but I'm doing it as a way to clarify a deficiency, then this is not backbiting. That would be an exception. Okay, and I hope everybody understands, okay, the difference. Okay, also, again, we talked about what if I mention the name or I don't mention it. Well, again, if you say, for example, some of the people or a certain person or certain people, everybody knows who those people are that you're talking about, then this is backbiting. But if you say certain people or some people, but nobody knows who you're not talking about, then that's not backbiting. And just as it's forbidden for us to backbite, it's also forbidden for you to listen to people who do that. And this is a big problem. We're human, and the human is attracted to what's bad. You find it interesting to sit there and hear other people talk about someone else. You're not supposed to sit in the company of people who say bad things about others. Instead, you're supposed to remove yourself from that group and defend the person who was attacked. You know, this is something that we need to do more of. Instead of sitting there listening to the gossip, you should say, wait a minute, this is wrong. Why are we talking about this person? This is wrong. We need to stop talking about this person and move on to something else. And if they don't move on to something else, then you're supposed to leave that area. Okay? So again, guys, we have to be careful of this too. You cannot sit in a gathering with other people who are talking or demeaning someone else. Even if it's a kafir, guys. A lot of people ask me, what about this? What about kafirs? Can we backbite kafirs? No. Backbiting is a sin, whether it's a Muslim or a non-Muslim or not, unless it falls into one of the exceptions. Now, if that non-Muslim, you know, is causing harm, this is another exception. Another exception to backbiting is, say, for example, it's going to, you know, this person, you know, a person is going to cause harm. You know, this person's getting ready to shoot someone or hurt someone. Then it's not backbiting if you go and warn the other people against him. And that may happen a lot on the internet, for example. Say I'm here in my class, teaching a class. There's a known troublemaker that comes in this class trying to create chaos. And when he leaves, I warn you guys. I said, whenever you see this person in here, understand he's a bad person. Stay away from him. Then that's an exception. That's not backbiting. That's warning. We had a question yesterday where one of the students here asked, well, what about this? What if we go on a trip and my aunt shares with me something that my uncle doesn't want me to know? Well, if she's doing it to save your life, to protect you, to warn you about what can happen if you go to that part of the world or whatever, this is not backbiting your uncle. Let me give another exception. Say, for example, your sister is sneaking out of the house at night to hook up with some boy. So you go and tell your parents or a person of authority that can stop her. That's not backbiting either. But if you sit around talking about your husband and how he makes you angry to other women who are not in a position to help your husband to stop, then you are backbiting him. You guys understand? So there are exceptions to backbiting, but we have to be so careful because it's a thin line. If it's to warn against the evil, warn other people about the evil of someone who's a known evil person, then it's permissible. That's not backbiting. Okay? If it's to warn you of something bad that can happen to you because it happened to this person, that's not backbiting either. Or if you are speaking speaking in general and no one knows who you are speaking about directly, then this is not backbiting either. Okay? And again, it's forbidden for us as Muslims to sit in the company of people who are backbiting. If you're at the mosque and other Muslims are talking about another Muslim or gossiping about something, you are supposed to stop them, remind them to fear Allah, defend the person by saying, you know, that person doesn't deserve that, and then get up and walk away. Okay? As a poet once wrote, he said, restrain your ears from hearing vile speech, just as you restrain your tongue from speaking it. Because when you listen to this vile speech, you become a partner to the one who said it. And that is so true. Okay? So we're going to stop right here for today. I hope you guys understand what the exceptions to backbiting are. Okay? To warn against the evil of another person, or to warn about an event that could happen because it happened to another person. That's an exception. Okay? To speak in general, but no one knows who you are speaking about personally, that's an exception. Okay, so we'll stop right here for today. Tomorrow we'll speak more about exceptions to backbiting. If you guys have any questions or comments, inshallah, you can type them on the screen. Subhanakallah.